I've got the light on there, but not the other lights. I hope that's right. I'm just on the phone doing a vertical stream today, because sometimes YouTube sends the vertical ones out more than the horizontal ones. And annoyingly, what was I going to say? The horizontal and vertical mode doesn't work for me yet, so it's not like I can do the other one and then set it to do both. So when that's the case, I'll probably do that every single time, the dual stream thing. But as dual streaming doesn't work for me yet, I can't exactly do that. So let's just get this one finished setting up, because again, the annoying thing is when you start a stream on your phone, the settings aren't like saved the same as they are between the PC and the phone. So what ends up happening is every setting I've previously set up in one way on the PC, I have to redo every time on the phone. And it's not like I can just, go into a setting on the phone, save a default. No, you have to do it every time. So yeah, my hair's sticking a bit. I did a video on a helmet earlier. I put a little Vietcong helmet on for now while we're doing the stream, because my hair's annoying me like that. I was just in the game of Command and Conquer that was saying it's because Sora's stupidly good. Nothing to do with me, really. But hello, Firebird. All right, Mr. Blackheart, Sentex, and Saint. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll be doing a stream. I'm just going to quickly see while I'm reading the comments on here if I can finish that game of Command and Conquer off I was in, because it wasn't one against any players. It was just the AI. But it was one of those missions where I was like, oh, it's 20 minutes before I start streaming, and then the mission started overrunning a bit because I didn't realise sort of how many nod units were on this mission. I've got shitloads of mammoth tanks as GDI, so I'm just steamrolling all their bases. It's just obviously, like I said, got a bit distracted just before I started. Oh, they built another base in the south again. Tell you what, let's build like 10 engineers. ChatGPT is the same thing. It's OpenAI. Yeah, so OpenAI owns Sora. You have to technically be in the US to use Sora. But you can use a VPN and then it works. So I was just doing it using a VPN. Right, I need a couple of APCs to get my engineers over the Tiberium. Right, their northern base is wiped out, but they'll probably start rebuilding in it. So it might be easier just for me to capture their buildings and then they can't rebuild in the spaces they were doing it in. Right, there's an APC that spawned up there. Just send that down and pick up some engineers. But yeah, I managed to get an invite code off of somebody else who was gifted an invite code, and I personally haven't been given any invite codes as far as I'm aware that I'm allowed to generate. What news in the main world? Well, with the very sad Australian massacre, we won't go too much into that, but I've seen a lot of the media keep fucking referring them to having assault rifles, even though they both had bolt-action rifles, or like one had a shotgun, one had a bolt-action rifle. So, you've got the usual shit with the media not knowing anything about the guns or not caring. And I did see Australia's going to make its gun laws worse for everybody because, rather than getting rid of terrorists that live in your country, make the gun laws worse for everybody that lives there. As one of the things, so that's not good, but, that's about what you'd expect from one of those things. But yeah, you're right, Rich, but we don't want to gloat too much, not gloat, don't want to be ghoulish and talk too much about that. It's a horrible thing, but it's one of those things that will probably get the stream taken down if we talk about it too much, and there's not really much you can say about it other than the fact that, lots of Western countries have people that live in them that hate Western countries, so, I'm sure Christmas markets and everywhere will have to have all of the, like anti-jihad barriers up as well. That'll be a thing. So yeah, I'm sure that'll be a thing as well. Let me just see if I can get that other light at a good angle where it doesn't glare too much. Yeah, that with the phone there, because the phone's fairly far forwards, that's not too bad actually back there. That gives quite good lighting. And actually, it's because also that the brim of this hat keeps the worst of the glare out of my eyes doing this. That mod base in the middle is pretty big. Let's drop some more shit on that. And I'll have to send my tanks into that eventually. Yeah, at least capturing that southern base means the AI can't keep rebuilding on that. Yeah, they've started again. I have to get some more engineers and things. They've started that base again. Like I said, it's a bit distracting because, like I said, I hadn't finished playing this game. But yeah, the northern mod base as well. They've started just building their own units in there again because the AI can do that annoying thing where it just keeps rebuilding buildings when you've as long as they've got a construction yard somewhere. Unlike the player where they have to be within a certain amount of tiles to the thing, the AI just starts building back where they had their buildings. Yeah, same. Again, it's all that shit, isn't it? Where people think because they don't like the politics of a certain country, people deserve to die for that reason, which is fucking bullshit. But you know, like I said, you get a lot of horrible people like that online, unfortunately, and in real life. Right, okay. This game should be nearly over now because that's 2 of the mod bases worked out. Right, if I just keep spamming out mammoth tanks while I'm doing this. Right, let's send a horde of about 5 of these mammoth tanks down there. But yeah, so the good thing is now I'm not working my other job. I've got where am I heading? I'm not heading anywhere. I've got the Viet Cong helmet on there. No, not helmet, like little piff hat. But I've what was I going to say? The good thing is I've got quite a few videos done now, and I'm back in advance of them. As in, you know, like I've got a video coming out per day, either a short or a full video for the next few days, all filmed and done. And then I'm, you know, each day I'm filming 1 or 2 videos to try and keep staying ahead. So that's good because, like I said, that was just one of the things with my job. I had too much on that I couldn't actually, you know, constantly get enough sort of video content like that done. But at the moment, you know, it's going quite well. So yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's much to talk about. Again, annoyingly, because I'm on my phone, if I do like the equivalent of tabbing out on the phone, it stops the stream. So what I'm just going to do is just tab out on the PC and do it that way. Oh yeah, the guy that rammed his car that wasn't actually a jihadi into a crowd in Liverpool has got 21 years in prison. Again, really fucking weird thing. Some bloke just randomly got in his car and was like, "Don't like Liverpool, probably South FC versus North FC. Don't like Liverpool, I'm going to ram my car into their fans." So that was a thing. Apparently there's a review for the new Avatar film that's 1 out of 5 stars. I haven't even seen the first fucking Avatar film. I like a lot of James Cameron's early films, like, you know, the Terminator and Aliens and stuff like that. His newer stuff I have not much interesting because it's a lot more CGI and practical effects. I did see the UK unemployment rate is still going up. Yeah, it's one of the 2 NVAs, Kevin, because yeah, you've got North Vietnamese Army, that kind of NVA, and you've also got NVA as the National Volksarmy, East Germany. And yeah, this is Vietnam, obviously, with this thing on, not East Bush. So yeah. Anyway, this game should be over soon. Right, let's take out those things there. Oh, they've built another refinery over there. Just destroy that. I'll have a look on another news site in a minute and we'll see if there's any more news on somewhere else. But what probably makes money online, sorry, Johnny? Or John Lloyd. What makes money online, sorry? I haven't seen what the rest of your comment was about. Oh, I can actually, yeah, adjust the focus on there. There we go. All right, this is nearly done. A couple of their buildings left. Oh, good. I've got an airstrike ready and the ion cannon. So let's hit some of their base with that. There we go. Send the rest of the stuff in, and hopefully they've not got enough defenses now to cause issues. Again, I can't screen share this sadly easily enough. Otherwise, I'd just do that. But like I said, it's just one of those annoying cases of playing something and then going, "Oh shit, it's 4 o'clock. I need to start my stream." I know I normally do it at 5 o'clock, but 4 o'clock is kind of better for me in the sense that, you know, the people that are going to watch are still going to watch at whatever time. And some of my mates, you know, finish work around 4 to 5, so they're online, want to play games sort of earlier on than later. So if I do it now and then I'm finished at 5 p.m.-ish sort of time, then that's that. All right. Well, they've still got an airstrip there. Take that out. All right. Oh, and it's still not mission accomplished. Is that because there's one SAM site down there? Yeah, there we go. Mission accomplished. Right. I'll just close this in a second, then we can go to the stream chat properly. All right, continue. I lost 39 men. Didn't see how many nod troops I killed, but it was probably a few hundred to 1,000. Right, but yeah, it is very dystopian, isn't it? Having the anti-vehicle blocks with all the Christmas decorations on them. I think in oh yeah, Scott, because that was like a guy, wasn't it, that stopped a knife man by stabbing him with a tusk like that. I think in Germany, some of the people call them like Merkel barriers or something, because it's like a piss taker Merkel for letting so many people in that they then needed them. What am I wearing? Vietnamese little piff helmet. Again, designed for tropical weather, not really in here, but it matches the coat, so that's all right. But yeah, offers no protection against shrapnel or anything like that. It's literally a piff helmet. So, you know, cork kind of material that's designed to just keep your head dry and, you know, the sun off your head. Again, Vietnam still makes them, so you can just buy them from Vietnam and they don't cost very much because it's like one of their things that they've been making since the Vietnamese, you know, war sort of period, and they still make them, I guess, for ceremonial type things and whatever, and then export them as well. Yeah, that was one of the London Bridge ones. There's been more than one London Bridge terror attack, sadly. All right, I'm going to get the comments up properly on this main screen because, like I said, the problem is it's too small to chat. So Firebird said he was told the seller that his MF14 mask is 40mm NATO, but your 3M whatever filter doesn't fit the mask. Fred is too small. Have you tried a GOST filter and see if the GOST filter works? If so, the seller just lied about the thing. But obviously there's not much you can do other than make a complaint, maybe ask for a refund. But yeah, like I was saying, the problem is that like there's not much you can do in that regard because of the fact that you know, if the seller said it was one thing and it's not, then the seller's lied essentially. Like I said, test a couple of NATO filters on it and a GOST filter just in case there's one filter it doesn't like. Because I have a couple of masks where certain filters just don't go on them very well just because of the fact that, you know, like sometimes the shape of the filter, not the thread, but sometimes the shape of the filter like pushes into the mask or whatever. But yeah, so like I said, I'm up to schedule on videos at least. Finally got around to doing a video today that again won't be live for a few days' time because I'm ahead of schedule now on the French F1 helmet that I've had for a while. It's quite cool. I was going to wear the F1 helmet for the stream and then I forgot and put it in the other room after I filmed the video on it. But yeah, there's not much in the UK news at the moment. Hello, Jim. You're right. But oh yeah, one good thing because I couldn't do a stream yesterday because of the power cut. I've managed to repair this American meter. See if it still works. Yep, still works because there's numbers coming up on it now. So yeah, the good thing is I've managed to repair this American meter. So this works again now. Turns out the problem with this was actually a really bad soldering job inside. I thought the GM tube had died. But I sort of took the PCB all apart and then realized that, you know, one of the things wasn't attached properly. Used a croc clip, the GM tube started working again. So I haven't soldered it properly yet, but I put a bit of metal there that was like wedged in between the crap joint. And it's holding for now, but if at some point I get the soldering iron out, I will solder this properly. And just to prove this works, let's put the rate sound on. So yeah, there we go. So that's good. That's that one repaired at least. Yeah, I've got batteries in it, Jim, that won't corrode. I've got non-alkaline batteries in it. I've got the what you call them, like lithium AA's in there that basically won't corrode. Because yeah, that's the problem with old Geiger counters and any of those old electronics. You have to be really careful not to leave batteries in them. But what you can do, again, they cost a lot more money. But if you're using something like this that's expensive, you can, yeah, get like I said, batteries that won't leak. So yeah, generally on cheaper electronics, I'll use alkaline batteries or cheap rechargeable batteries. On more expensive things, I always put the batteries in that have no risk of leaking. Again, a lithium battery, if you stab it, it could explode. But PDRM82 will tell you if you're being horribly irradiated, but it's no good for low levels of radiation unless you get the PDRM82D. So I put that custom firmware on the GMC800, and I don't actually like it as much as the classic firmware, annoyingly. I think this would be good on the Chinese meters, but because the actual firmware that came with this is actually better, I'd say don't put Rad Pro on one of these. It's still not bad firmware, but, you know, I actually prefer the older one that came with this. So Rad Pro seems good. I did find my GC01, and annoyingly, my one is a model that you can't update the firmware on. So the Rad Pro stuff I can't put on this one. When the other counter arrives, I'll put Rad Pro on it for a video. But like I said, I've put Rad Pro on this one, and it's right, we've got somebody trying to start an argument on here with some religious sort of racial shit, so fuck off. But yeah, so that's that. Again, I did all my cheapo Chinese Geiger counters. I got out and tested all of them to see if they'd work with cheers, like AS Exploration. I like your videos as well, because obviously you do a lot of bunkers and stuff, don't you, on there? Like I said, I always wanted to get an ROC post, but then when Putin invaded Ukraine, the price went up massively, and because I just wanted one to restore or whatever. Oh, that's a shame, Kevin. Yeah, I can understand why they would be, though, because like I said, they're really good, sort of competent meters, aren't they? Again, I'd have thought these would have been ITAR restricted, but I don't know if it's because this is the, like, civil defense version, not the, like, military version. Because it is essentially the exact same meter, just in yellow, not green, and in Rontgen, not centigrade or whatever. But most stuff Germanov, if their current military stuff is restricted in the US. So say you have current military issue stuff, even if it's not like a weapon, they come under a thing called ITAR, which is like international arms embargoing kind of stuff. And basically you just can't buy it as a civilian. Like, you know, the US can sell it to other governments, but somebody in the US can't post it to you. It would be breaking their ITAR restrictions. Sometimes stuff gets caught up in ITAR as well. It isn't even ITAR restricted, but, you know, like people in the postal service or whatever think it is and it isn't. Badges, not really. I've got some, what you call it, like badges on my, like, I mean, obviously there's like a badge like that there. I've got like some patches and things that are just kind of like silly patches on some of my body armor, but no, I don't have any proper badges. I need to cut my hair again because this is getting annoying now. If I put stuff on and on, it starts doing this. But yeah, so like I said, annoyingly, went through all my Chinese Geiger counters, the cheapo ones anyway, and none of them, even though what models I have that should support the custom firmware, none of them worked on any of them. This one, I think, is actually the exact same firmware as this one, or a very, very similar model. If you look at how, like, the buttons are laid out and everything else, it looks like they're using almost the exact same, like, software on them, firmware. But, yeah, both of these. And with this one, I even did the thing that you're meant to do of, like, holding the button down as you power it up to plug in the USB to go for the firmware updating mode, but that didn't work on it, so... I did open it up and look at the PCB, and it does look like it's a proper one, not like an even cheaper Chinese knockoff one, so I don't know why, but... Oh, that's really cool, Scott, but yeah. Yeah, again, Kevin, that's the problem, isn't it? You've got two things there. You've got the stuff like, yeah, what you can buy in the US and then shipping it out. But like I said, the CDV 718 is the one I'm interested in, because it's essentially the same unit, like saying, just they've made it in this sort of civil defense yellow, not the green. But in theory, it should, like, because it's not military, I don't know if it'd be ITAR or not, even though, like, you know, it's almost the exact same unit. Because, like I was saying, with this thing, you can get these out of the US, but I don't think the, like, mini radiacs, whatever they call them in green, that the US Army are issued, I don't think you can. So it's one of those weird things that the technology inside them is identical. They basically both do the exact same radiation measurements and ranges, but as one is marketed as a civil defense version, not the military version, they don't seem to apply the ITAR to it. But, you know, maybe I was just really lucky where a UK seller managed to get some of these in from the US. I don't like the BBC, but also I don't really like Trump in his second term. So the problem is, if he sues the BBC, it would be the British taxpayer like us that would have to pay for it. So even though I really think the BBC are shit biased news now and they do lots of crap programming, and I don't like the TV license because, you know, it's like forcing people to pay for the BBC even if they're not going to watch it. I don't think it's necessarily good if they're fined, just because if they were fined and it was people that actually were like some sort of shareholder, I don't know how it works in the BBC, and they were the people that had to pay all the fines, that would be great. The problem is, because I think it's going to end up being us, the British taxpayer, that do it, have to pay the fine, and then the BBC will still carry on doing all the shit they're doing regardless. They're not going to learn their lesson. I don't think it's good for that reason. It's a bit like when some police forces fuck up and do something really bad, and then the police forces get fined, but it ends up basically being a fine that's just passed on to the taxpayer. So really, it's like, you know, somebody getting compensation from the taxpayer, not the police force that caused the issue in the first place. Yeah, no, I don't watch normal TV. Like saying, I just watch stuff on like YouTube or documentaries or whatever. Nothing on iPlayer either, so the BBC can't say, even though we have a TV license in the house. But like I said, I don't watch anything really BBC by choice. I just, like I said, just because you can find lots of stuff on streaming services online which are much better quality anyway. That's interesting, Scott. Although there were no issues buying them in the UK and lots of other places, and they were made in Japan as well. Was that like there was a specific model that had a specific processor that was US only? Because I know there's a load of stuff to do with NVIDIA and that, isn't there, at the moment, with all the stuff to do with restrictions and whatever. But again, it doesn't apply to the UK. Like I said, I don't really want to talk about stuff like that, but the people who did it were fucking cunts, and I'm glad one of them's dead. I hope the other one dies. You know, but again, if Australia makes its gun laws worse because they have nut jobs in the country that murder people for religious reasons, that's not really the fault of guns. And like I was saying earlier in the stream, a lot of the media's already keep saying, oh, they were using assault rifles, you know, assault rifles, and all the footage looks like a shotgun and a bolt action rifle. Yeah, NVIDIA, like loads of companies, is focusing on AI, and the price of RAM has gone ridiculous and everything. Right, cheers, Rossi. But yeah, so like I was saying, the problem is with all that shit, again, is the media not fairly representing it. You know, where they were saying, because again, like I said, so many of them keep saying they had assault rifles. It's like a bolt fucking action rifle is not an assault rifle. One of them had some sort of bolt action, like as in like a civilian hunting style bolt action rifle, not even a milcert bolt action. He had like a red dot on it or something. I think one of them had a pump action shotgun. Again, like it depends on what footage you see, but one of them definitely just had a bolt action rifle, and that's not an assault rifle. Because the guy that got tackled and had his gun taken off of him, no, nothing new. I'd be doing videos on them anyway. If you're upgrading to good RAM, it's like a few £100 now. If you're upgrading to older model, not as good RAM, it isn't affected because obviously, well, other than the knock-on effect of people buying the cheaper stuff because they can't afford the more expensive stuff. But most of the RAM that's selling out is just the really high-end stuff because that's the stuff that, you know, all the companies now are buying out. But the guy that got like tackled and had his gun taken off of him had either a bolt action or a shotgun, because you can see in the footage he gets tackled at the moment he goes to start putting more shells into it. I don't believe that personally, Scott, because nukes can be designed by anybody with a knowledge on how you know, atomic weapons work. I mean, you can look up how like Little Boy and Fat Man works. That's not even restricted access, you know. If that's what you mean, like restricted information. Little Boy was a uranium fission gun, and Fat Man was an plutonium implosion device. That's not even restricted information. The thing is, you wouldn't be able to get the stuff as a civilian to make the bombs. It's not the design of making a nuking work that's hard. It's getting the material. Like all the countries like Iran and everything, they know how to make the nukes. The problem is getting all the material to make the nukes, because you need the stuff that's enriched to a certain quality. You know, you need enough uranium or plutonium, and then you need to enrich it enough. And that's where all these countries run into the issues, rather than actually building the things. The nukes themselves are pretty simple. Yeah, I don't know, Saint, but like I said, I'd rather not get into conspiracy theories and all that with that. Obviously, I feel bad for all the victims and their families, and, you know, I hope the cunts that did it burn in hell, you know. Yeah, I've seen some of those, Kevin, that say, like, even if you show them the Castle Bravo footage, they say, oh, it's just a really big petrol explosion. Like, they just got a load of petrol, chucked it on a bonfire, and apparently that was Castle Bravo. But yeah, I mean, I personally can't get into the headspace of somebody that would, especially shooting a 10-year-old little girl. Like, I can't fucking get into, like, because, like, even, like, during my darkest kind of, you know, whatever things, you think, if there was somebody who was doing something really bad to you, you might get them, you know, you might do a murder and then word I can't use on YouTube, you know, up bang and then up bang kind of thing. But I can never understand the logic of somebody that would, like, murder kids. But, you know, like I said, people like that are fucking nuts, so. Wasn't there, again, I can't talk too much about shootings on here, because, again, YouTube doesn't like it when I talk about them. Oh, and don't forget to like the stream, everybody, even if we're talking about depressing fucking shit at the moment. But wasn't there on the same day, like, a thing at Brown University or something in the US on, like, Rhode Island or somewhere, a shooting? But that got completely overshadowed in the news over here, because obviously there was the much worse shooting on the same day. Oh, I get what you mean now, Scott. Yeah, so, like, come up with new designs and run all the calculations to see if they work, kind of thing. Yeah, I get you now, sorry, yeah. I thought you just meant, like, you could use the processor to see if a fission bomb would work, because we already know that that's the case. But yeah, like, I know what you mean, yeah, like, where they do the thing, because they don't do even underground testing now, yeah, where you don't have atmospheric testing and you don't have the underground testing, where they essentially just run a computer simulation to see if new designs would work, which, again, I don't really trust completely, because, you know, you never know if there's been a bit of an oversight there. I personally like, you know, if your country's defense is relying on, you know, a certain model of nuke, you'd hope they've at least tested them once or twice, that warhead design, to see if it would actually work if shit hits the fan. It's all back in my area now, saying it might have gone off once more overnight, because my phone had barely any charge in the morning. So it makes me think that, you know, for a few hours during the night, the electricity went off again. Right, cheers. Love to you from Brazil. Love to you in Brazil, sorry. But no, I'll Google it now. But like I said, I know it affected a load of people in my area, and some places near me were affected for like hours longer than I was. But I don't know if they've actually... You know, I don't know if there was any... There's a thing about tractors hitting power lines, but I don't know if... Because, again, there's a... I'm trying to find one that's... Again, the problem is some of these ones aren't from the current date. Now, that one with the tractors, the 15th of July. Let me sort results by past 24 hours, and we'll see if there's... But no, like I said, I'm assuming some idiot maybe cut through a cable, cut through a gas line, something like that. I'm really sorry to hear that, Chris. Hang on a second, I'll read your comment properly on the big screen. So, if they're going through stuff that's going to make them immunocompromised and everything, then I would say yes, obviously just something comfortable. I mean, hopefully they don't have to go out and do too much, and other people can like do their shopping in that forum. But if you mean just in terms of like picking up infections, something with either a P3 or P100 filter, you could just get a half face mask, but obviously you have to be careful of those that you don't, like, you know, rub your eyes, you know, touch the mask or touch the surface and rub your eyes, because that's, again, quite an easy way of getting an infection, even if you're wearing a mask. But yeah, I'd recommend it if, you know, somebody's having chemotherapy or radiotherapy, because they're going to be immunely pretty weak. So any of those kind of half-face masks, like the 3M ones with the P3 filters or any of those brands, don't go for a really cheapo Chinese one that probably hasn't got very good filters. Was that a universal power supply or uninterrupted power supply? Yeah, I will do if I get one, but I'm not planning on getting one right now. Like I said, power cuts, thankfully, in my area are pretty rare. But like I said, the problem is even if I get like a power generator or anything like that, we still wouldn't have internet, so I still wouldn't be able to do a stream, even if I still had power. Because if the power in my area goes down, the internet goes down. Like, you know, they're all connected. So, but yeah, so it's one of those things. There's a few people asking about that. But yeah, the mobile internet signal in my area is so shit. You can about send a text with it, but that's about it. And going back a year or so ago, you wouldn't even be able to send a text reliably because half the time you wouldn't have any signal at all. In my area now, you seem to always at least have one very weak bar of signal, but when I tried to upload a video about the power cut on it, that took about 30 minutes to upload like a short, you know, by putting my phone in the place in the house with the best possible signal. Yeah, that's the thing for, yeah, not bricking your PC. Yeah, I agree with that, but again, like I said, this PC is getting oldish now anyway. Yeah, greetings to you in Germany. I went to Germany this year. Was that June? June I went to Germany, wasn't it? When I went to Bavaria and Berlin and everything. Now, that was nice. I enjoyed that. Even if I was looking at World War II stuff, which isn't the nicest history, it's still very interesting. The cheek filter mask, yeah, Polish MP4s are cool. Again, if you like cheek filter masks. If you hate cheek filter masks, you won't like the MP4. But yeah, that's all right, Chris. I mean, I wish him all the best and that. But yeah, so what country are you in, by the way? But like saying in the UK, you can get... Let me have a look on Screwfix's site, for example, just with the UK. And see what they currently do in terms of masks. But I'd say definitely get something better than a little surgical mask or a dust mask, because like, you know, those even if they make a good seal around your face, which a lot don't, aren't very good filter material. So like in the UK, Screwfix do the Trend Stealth, the JSP Force 8 and the GVS Ellipse, all of which are P3 rated half face masks. They also do the 3M half-face masks. There's also actually a really cheap half-face mask here. This is an interesting thing. Ah, right, because it's a disposable one. That's why. It's just like a higher quality disposable one. You're in the US. What hardware stores do you get in the US? I know there's obviously Walmart, which is a generic store, but is it Harbor Freight, one of them or whatever? Just because I'm trying to think of like places that would sell brand new masks in the US. But yeah, the problem is obviously because I'm not in the US, I don't know a lot of your retailers. Obviously, like Walmart's the famous one, but I don't know, like, you know, what are like specific hardware only stores. Because at least in the UK, you can, you know, those sell brand new respirators because they're obviously sold to people who need them for their like work. You probably want a combination one, Saint. Rich, if he's in the chat still, would be the best person to ask because he does welding and things like that. But in general, you'd want a P3 with something else on it, I think, depending on what you're welding, because some of the fumes aren't going to be just particulates. Home Depot, right? Let's see if, and Lowe's, right? Let me see if Home Depot's site lists what products they have. And I don't want them to then do like a UK. Oh, access denied because I'm not in the US for Home Depot. Right, let's see if Lowe's I can get onto in the UK. I could use a VPN, but then I'd have to stop the stream if I turned a VPN on. Actually, I wouldn't if I did it on the PC because I'm streaming from my phone. But again, Lowe's aren't shit. Lowe's let me look at their website in the UK, even if I'm not buying anything from them. Let's see. So if we type respirator, and I've spelled that wrong. I put respirator. But they do sell respirators. Right. Right, does this 3M one come with the filters with it? Because if it does, then here you go. I'm just checking if this 3M one actually comes with the filters or if you have to buy them separately. I'm assuming because it's on all the pictures. Yeah, it says P100 on it, which is like the US equivalent of P3. So, yeah, there you go. So even, yeah, from something like Lowe's, you can get something like that. And like I said, that's like the equivalent with our UK hardware stores that for half face masks that aren't like the military style ones, you can, you know, most hardware stores. And again, there are other P100 masks being sold by Lowe's. again, I go for one of the ones like the rubber face fittings, just because they're going to be more comfortable if you have them for longer, and you know, they're more durable and whatever else. They even do like some of the 3M full face respirators at Lowe's. But yeah, that's pretty good. Like I said, I wouldn't really personally go for a dust mask one because I don't trust them myself. And again, the reason I don't trust a lot of the dust mask ones is when I volunteer, before I used to take my own respirator there, they'd actually provide you the disposable, like, ones that are meant to be like P2 or P3, you know, like the elasticated, like, little 3M ones. You know, like the dust mask kind of ones, like little metal band on the nose. And always with those, no matter how well you'd think it would be fitting, you'd start wheezing when you were in a really dusty place because it would always find a way through the gaps. You know, you always want a proper rubber face seal with that sort of stuff. So, yeah, you can get any reasonable films out. I've not seen anything I want to watch in ages, in all honesty. I know in 2 years' time, I think it is, you have to wait. Disney are re-releasing the original Star Wars without any CGI bullshit in it, but the original, like, 1977 release, so I think it's coming out in 2027 for the 50th anniversary. So that's still 2 years away. And again, you can see 4K 77, which is a fan remaster of the original version of Star Wars anyway. That's all right, Chris. Again, all the best to your relative. I hope, you know, they get through it or whatever, because again, it's fucking horrible thing, cancer. You know, I know people that have died from it, and some people that, you know, relatives and that. And I've known a few people that have, you know, been really lucky and survived it, but that was only because of really good medical care and, you know, supportive families and stuff like that. But sorry again to hear about that. But like I said, so yeah, Lowe's and your other hardware stores are good places. But yeah, if you're immunocompromised, especially when it's flu season and whatever else, definitely. Like saying, at the moment, I don't really need to do much stuff on public transport or whatever, but when I'm next on public transport in the UK, especially if I'm going on a longer journey, I'm going to have a mask in case I need it. You know, if I'm in a bus or a train carriage without many people, I probably wouldn't bother, but I will be wearing my stab vest under it because of what the UK is getting like. Don't really have the budget, unfortunately, to do a spoof film. I suppose if I got a load of people that would act for free together, I could hand them out the equipment and whatever. Squire does quite good parody films for like army type stuff. What do you mean, like the ones that go in your room, say? In both this room and my bedroom, I've got like one of those ones that has a HEPA filter in that, you know, constantly pulls air through it, and they do pick up a surprising amount of dust and horrible shit out the air. So they help my breathing a lot, yeah. So yeah, especially in the summer with hay fever. But yeah, in this room and the other room, I think it's a Silent Night one I've got in this room, and this is a replacement for my old Silent Night one, which was good and worked well. It's kind of like a little mini tower fan, and then it's got a heap of filter at the back, and it's got a bit of charcoal. The charcoal layer is just to take smells out the air. There's not enough charcoal in there that it would actually help like a chemical threat. But let's have a look, Saint. So air purifier. Again, if you get the ones with charcoal in, they normally cost more. There's a Spear and Jackson one that looks nearly identical to my Silent Night one on Amazon. Yeah, it's because it says I've purchased it 2 times before, so they've changed their branding now. It's Spear and Jackson, not Silent Night. But if I can shorten the URL to the point I can link it. There you go. This is the one I bought twice before. Again, the old one only broke because it just got really old, and I think knocked off a counter a few times. So I've got it put now in a different place in the room where people can't knock it over as easily. But yeah, this one is a good one, and if it's like when I had it, it has both the charcoal and the like the P3 filter in the back. Yeah, you can still buy replacement filters for them, which are $12.99. And yeah, they're a HEPA filter and a charcoal filter. You put them both in the back. If you want to clean it off before the filter gets completely clogged up, even though they tell you not to, you can get a Hoover and just like hoover along the, like using the wand on the vacuum cleaner, go along the back and pull off most of the dusty sort of crap. But yeah, they're pretty good. The ionization function is quite interesting as well, the ionizer. What that does is it makes the dust stick to surfaces. So rather than floating in the air, any dust starts like You know, like, so you'll notice a lot more dust on TV screens, but then you can dust it off quite easily without it going airborne. But that's one of the ones I've got that's pretty good. And then I've got some generic Chinesium brand one that is in the other room. And again, that works fine. But that's the one that, you know. Yeah, I mean, you're always going to get a bit of dust. But yeah, those are very good at massively lowering the amount of dust in the air. What, the little ones with the green bits on? Yes. I had a couple of them. I still have one somewhere. Let me have a look for you. I'm trying to think of what the name is for it. The Soviet little half-face one with the, it has like a little green exhale valve there, and it's made from like a green felt kind of material. I think there's even probably one on that poster behind me. Yeah, but you can't see it. It's at the very left behind where the igloo bit is. Yeah. That's on like the cover of it, isn't it? I'm trying to think what it's called, but yeah, it's just like a very cheap Soviet little particle mask. Again, they're not as good as modern ones. I've done videos on it, so I'm trying to just think of what they're called. And I think some of the other ComBlock countries did their own variant of it. Right, it's called a Y2K respirator, as in like the year 2000, but as in Y-2K. So let me, because I've just found my old video on it. And now if I type in or U2K, might be a thing, because again, it depends if you're doing it in Cyrillic or not. Yeah, so here's a gas mask page on it. So there you go. Right, let's see if we can find one anywhere. Because again, with a lot of surplus stuff, it just depends at the time if somebody's surplusing it. Although the Chernobyl one, I think, is the was the successor to the R2. So yeah, sorry, the Chernobyl one will be the R2, like the older variant of it. But they're essentially the same mask. So yeah, let's have a look. So one is the Soviet R2 mask. I suppose if you want the Chernobyl era one, you'd want that one. But I think in the series, some of the people have the more modern Russian ones to stand in for the older ones. Loads of GP5s coming up, as you'd expect. What has come up, which is pretty cool, which isn't what you asked about, but one of those has actually come up again, a PTM1. Let me shorten the eBay URL just for anybody interested. Where's the bit I have to cut the URL from? Right, so this isn't the one you're after, but this is kind of a related ones. No, I've never seen a bird walk backwards. I've seen women walk backwards, that kind of bird, but I haven't seen, like, I don't know, can actual birds walk backwards? So yeah, there you go. That's not the one you're after, but that's a similar thing. I've got one on the wall there that's part of the same Soviet civil defense series, just because that popped up when I was looking for the one you're on about. But yeah, is the one, because again, it's a really mass-produced common mask. It's just the bloody typical thing that when somebody actually wants a link to one, I bet you can never find them. That's always the thing. I wonder if Etsy might be a bit better for that. Let me have a look on Etsy, because Etsy is sometimes quite good to buy directly from Eastern Europe. Well, the little remote control ones, yeah. The ones like little moon landers they use to, yeah, clear the rubble. I just search Soviet mask and see what comes up. Again, lots of GP5s in the generic ones. Somebody has an IP4 for really cheap on Etsy saying that. Yeah, this is surprisingly cheap. Hang on. I'm just going to link this for anyone interested, if I can find a way of linking the URL on Etsy. Is there a way I can... Right, if that URL still works, this is stupidly cheap for an IP4M. Just because, again, I don't know if the seller's any good and they're a legit seller. It just completely depends on the person listing it, Devon. Sometimes Etsy's bad. Again, it depends on what they're charging you for it. Yeah, that's basically what those Soviet masks were. They're basically about P2 rated. They're just basically like a foamy kind of material, like a foamy felt material that, you know, lets air through but blocks most of the dust, and then they've just got an exhale valve. But yeah, for an IP4M, that is stupidly cheap. But that wasn't what we were looking for anyway. It's just, again, cool stuff popping up when again, this is where I'm still having to be really careful and not waste my money at the moment. But yeah, most of the masks coming up at the moment are just like GP5 style ones. There's some Shums masks being sold, but they're like over 100 quid, so I wouldn't say pay that much for a Shums. Oh, right, there's another type of Soviet half-face mask, the higher quality one on here, which again isn't the Chernobyl one, but there you go. There's also this coming up. PMG2 is all right. Again, it's just literally a GP5 with a you know, like a voice diaphragm on. So yeah, it's just all right. There's nothing wrong with it. Again, the main problem is its cost. So good luck. You know, you're gonna have to spend more money than you'd think getting filters for it. But yeah, I'm just looking through here on Etsy just to see if again, there's some other Soviet half masks coming up, but annoyingly not the ones we're after. A regular IP4 without the voice diaphragm. But that's, again, not what we're after. Loads and loads of just GP5s and similar ones. A GP21, but it's over £200. I wouldn't pay that for it. Quite a cool looking mask, but not worth that sort of money. Again, more Soviet half-face masks that are a different type. One of those Soviet Afghan hats with like the dust face shield on it, which is quite cool. Again, not what we're after. A PTM one again for thing, but again, not what we're after. Soviet pilot's helmet for nearly 200 quid, but again, not what we're looking for. I'm just going to sort price low to high a moment and just see if we have any luck with that. Again, nearly everything coming up is just GP5s and some of the weirder masks. Soviet rubber tourniquet coming up, one of these. That I would not rely on as a tourniquet. But yeah, annoyingly, for IKS, I can't find any of those bloody masks at the moment. But this is just going to be a case of there's probably none on the surplus market at the moment, and then there's going to probably be at some point be another few hundred dumped on it. Again, it just depends with surplus, doesn't it? And again, when we had trade going on with Russia, you could buy the Y2K masks pretty easily, but sadly now, like I said, it's one of those what do you call it, things where, yeah, that obviously they're not on an easy export list. No, I've only got obsolete calibers, Jim, because of the fact that, like, again, if you have a section 1 or a section 2 and you say the wrong thing online or say the wrong thing to your doctor, you know, you can lose them. So it's one of those things. I have got a gun safe secured to the wall. At one point I was going to get an SGC, but when one of the local shooting places near me closed down, you know, I then just kind of lost interest in it because I didn't want to go even further afield to start doing sports shooting. That's all right, IKS. Again, I really like your videos, but yeah, it's just saying, it's just one of those things with surplus. Sometimes you can find stuff really good prices and plenty of it about, and then other times they're not available. And I imagine with a mask like that, because of the Chernobyl series, I imagine it's one of those ones where lots of people bought them up because of the series. That's right, Jim. But yeah. Yeah, there were lots of other shops like that as well, where I think there was one called Soviet Power. You could use to buy stuff directly from Russia from. Again, they were overpriced. Yeah, they are tightening the rules on shotguns, aren't they? Even though I don't think there's been many shootings that would justify it. I know there was that dickhead, was it in Plymouth or something, that shot a kid and shot like somebody. But yeah, for the most part, I think it's just because, again, they want to just take as much away from civilians as they can. Like I say, and it's like with those blank firers recently, where they're coming up with more and more blank firers, even though they'd frag in your hand if you tried to put real ammo in them, even if you put a new barrel in. Where they're saying, oh no, you could just convert them in your shed with like a hacksaw or something. Like, no, you can't. Yeah, you can buy Russian stuff through China and Kazakhstan and some of the other places. Belarus is actually easier to buy from than Russia. But yeah, it's just a case of finding somewhere that will ship to your country for a reasonable price. Yeah, it could be inductive tea cake. It's again, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like I said, where sometimes something can be in the news and the price can shoot up. Yeah, again, that's another thing, Saint, as well, where, yeah, it's kind of like giving them a permanent warrant, isn't it? I know in theory they're not meant to, but the way things are going, oh, we came to check your shotguns, but now we're in your house. We're going to look for something else. We're going to look for what you've said on your phone. Because apparently they're making more rules as well, or they're trying to pass through legislation where they can do more stuff to look through your phone. And apparently, again, they're using the excuse of protecting kids. Like they're saying, to try and make it sound good to the public, it's to basically find nonces that are grooming kids or whatever. But I bet you it's just going to be, they're going to start doing it to loads of people if you've said a slight thing they don't like. Oh, we need to check that you're not trying to nonce kids on your phone. Oh, look, we found something that's slightly racist, slightly offensive, whatever, questionable material. Now you're Nick's son. Yeah, they are saying, yeah, Trump wants to make sure you've not said anything mean about him. Yeah, Gorka's a nice jackets. I like the bars suits I've got, but a lot of the time I find the bars suits are actually too fucking hot for being in the UK. As in, like even when it's quite cold here, because a lot of the winters we get around here are like -5, -10 at the worst. Things that are designed for cold Eastern European winters, I get too hot in them. But yeah, as Alpenfrost says, in lots of countries, I wouldn't even say it's actually always left-wing governments, but yeah, lots of governments when they get in, especially if they're not popular, like with Labour over here, even though I don't like getting too much into politics, what they'll do is basically, oh, how can we keep power? Well, we're not going to keep power because we're a good government and people like our policies and they'll vote for us again. Let's just cancel elections using variable excuses, where we're not expected to win and stuff like that. Yeah, the bars suits I've got, I don't think are waterproof. They're water resistant, but I think it's like a bit like some of the things that, if you get wet for long enough or whatever, the water will get through. Because Labour have done a thing saying that, Saint, with, if you don't know if you saw this, where they've cancelled loads of local elections, specifically in the places where Reform was expected to win the elections. That's very convenient, isn't it? I'm sure there's nothing to that. Because again, even if you're not somebody that likes Farage or Reform, it's not good for democracy if you've got a government in power that then starts going, oh yeah, because we're not going to win in this election, we're just going to delay it. Well, you can have it in 5 years' time. And I think some of them they've delayed again. So they delayed it, like they said they're going to delay it 1 year. And now that year's come close to rolling around again, they've delayed it another year. And they've come up with another excuse for it. Yeah, a lot of NBC suits work like a Gorka. They're not as thick and they won't trap heat as well. Bear in mind, the rubber NBC suits are the only ones that are really, really waterproof. Most modern NBC suits are that like kind of water repellent material that, like if it rains, you're going to stay dry. But if you like try to wade through stuff, water will get through because they're like impermeable or whatever, but not impenetrable, whatever the word is, They're like, they're treated because when it was really wet, I took one of my NBC suits out in the rain, like one of the fabric ones, and I'd say it kept me bone dry for maybe an hour or so, and then eventually the rain started eating its way through. Yeah, exactly. Inductive tea cake. We've talked about that a few times. It's like I've said with rucksacks. You don't necessarily want one that looks like a really military style one, but you can get some quite good civilian rucksacks with really strong zips and lots of space in them and whatever else. No, John, because again, nowhere near me that I'd have permission to use the land for it. Again, in my area, we used to have lots of local farms and things like that, where, you know, a farmer might give you permission to shoot on their land or whatever, or hunt on their land. Now, nearly all the farms near me aren't owned by local people anymore. They've been bought up by companies to speculate on the value of the land going up for housing, or they've just built fucking solar panels on all of them. What that does not surprise me, Devon. Again, a bit like with the Bell Hotel or wherever it was, they'll do the thing of all the local people and the local council don't want it, but the government will take you to court to overrule you because the government knows best. So yeah. Anyway, I've been on about an hour, so that will do this stream. Thanks for coming on, everybody. Don't forget to like the stream. And yeah, annoyingly, until the dual stream things work, I might do more of these vertical streams because it does send them to people, I've noticed, more reliably when I stream via a phone doing it vertically. So when the horizontal thing works and I can do a horizontal stream and click the dual stream thing, and it then does a vertical stream as well and sends it to people, great. But at the moment, because that option is still not enabled for my channel, I can't exactly do that, so it won't send it to people. But when I stream via the vertical thing, I think because YouTube pushes it more, they do send it to more people. Oh, yeah, Chris, I'll quickly answer that before I go off. Yeah, you can reuse the filters, because bear in mind, the funny thing with particle filters is they actually, right, obviously what you don't want to do is take the mask off and lick the filter for obvious reasons on the outside. And you might want to like wet wipe, disinfectant wipe the outside of the mask. But yeah, particle filters are interesting because they actually get more efficient the more they're used. The more dust and crap that gets into a particle filter, the more it blocks the airflow. So while it becomes harder to actually breathe while wearing the mask, it does make the mask safer because it's even less of a chance of stuff getting through. So yeah, that's the weird thing with particle masks. Right? Obviously, if you like I said, you want to be careful that there's not germs on the outside, so you do want to wet wipe the outside of the mask. And you also, you know, if you're exposed to something radioactive, you'd want to bin the filters because you wouldn't want like radioactive dust to be in the mask that's constantly exposing you to radiation. You know, if there's gamma rays or whatever coming off of the mask, it's a bit like, you know, where I was showing that radium dial. You don't want it to be a case that, you know, when you've got something that's got stuck in the filter that's constantly just sending out energy. So even if it's not going to get clogged in your lungs, it's still cooking your DNA via it being that close to you. But yeah, in terms of just wearing it out to prevent getting infections and things like that, yeah, just take some wet wipes, get your relative to take some wet wipes with them before they take the mask off, wet wipe all the outside of the mask, you know, that way there's no germs on the outside the mask going to transfer to their hands and then, you know, transfer to their face or whatever, or their food. And yeah, they'd be perfectly fine because, yeah, any germs are just going to die off inside the filter if they've got, you know, any like saliva or whatever has been coughed and it's got stuck in the filter. It's just going to die inside the filter, the germs, after a certain amount of time. So yeah, particle filters are fine to reuse for that kind of thing. Like I said, particle filters you just don't want to reuse if they've been exposed to stuff like radioactive dust, where even though the risk isn't that you're then going to inhale the dust, the risk is that your mask is essentially becoming radioactive because there's irradiated particles jammed in its filter. Yeah, and again, Sketchy Rob, I don't disagree with you. When I look at UK politics personally, I don't think any of them will sort out a lot of our problems. You know, I think some parties are worse than others, but I don't trust really any politician personally because, you know, I think for the last, like you're saying, the last 50 or so years, people have voted for parties that have promised them, you know, to fix everything. And, you know, nothing's been fixed. Right, yeah, that's all right. Thanks to everyone for coming on. Don't forget to like the stream on your way out. Fred's, I'm a big fan of Fred's. I've got a traffic warden cosplay thing on my channel. Right, I'll be off now. I need to go get some food. I'm getting quite hungry now. I'm going to see if any of my mates want to play video games tonight. But yeah, anyway, have a good evening, everyone, and I'll see you all hopefully tomorrow for a stream. And as I said, most days now there'll be either a short or a full-length video up. because, you know, I'm doing YouTube full time again as my current thing until I find another job. So there you go. Right, have a good day, everyone.